Welcome to this navigation session for the Fresh Connections Supply Chain Simulation. What we'll be doing here is strictly navigation, showing you around the screen where everything's laid out here. So what you're seeing right here is the front screen after you do your login. When you do your login, you'll initially be asked if you want to change your password, do you want to have a team name. If you need to come back, you'll come up here to Profiles where we just clicked, and here's a chance to enter your name or to change it. Put a team name. You can change languages within your team. However, if you change the language, it'll change it for everyone. And here's where you can change roles. The watcher's role can be a fifth person who's kind of looking over your shoulder, or if a person leaves, you can unclick a role, put them in the watcher's role, and put a new person in as a role. But here's where you would save it. So your profile is where you have to change what roles you're going to play here. And if you notice, wherever you see the blue bar, the save has been done successfully. But let me come back to my company here. This is our front screen. This is where the company is. This is where you'll see when you first come in. And what you're seeing on the screen here is 4 roles. Green's purchasing, yellow is operations, orange is sales, pink or fuchsia supply chain. And if you noticed on the right, as the colors changed, the document on the right changed. These are alerts. These are quick hits, if you want to call it. So if you're in the supply chain role, here's a note that came back, an alert that said low level availability for component vitamin C, and you can check it out. So each role has a different set of alerts. And if you'll notice on the bottom, the KPIs, this is your dashboard, these change too. So this again gives you a quick look on KPIs for each of the different roles. What most of you are interested though is how to dive in. And here's your 4 roles: supply chain, sales, operations, and purchasing, where you'll make your decisions and do your reports. But let me jump to the finance screen first. Your finance screen, typical profit loss statement, income statement. The way it's laid out: current round, previous round, and the delta, the difference between the current and the previous round, so you can do analysis. Standard income statement: revenue, $2,008,000, minus costs, bonuses and penalties. Penalties come from being late to the customer, so you overpromised or underperformed. Purchase value is your raw materials, and wherever you see a little plus on the left, you can expand out. So here's my raw materials, what I spent. Here's the penalties for being late to the customers. Here's my revenue by customer. So wherever there's a plus, I can expand it out. Minus brings it back. Cost of goods sold, $1,003,000, almost $1,004,000. Gross margin, $1,001,000. Additional costs, we're losing money. And this is where the goal of the simulation is to turn this company around. So wherever there's a plus, I can expand it out. Wherever I have an I acts like the info center up on top. I can click the info center and it will take me to a menu where, like any other software, I can see all the different instructions that are available, but you'll spend a lot of time searching through it. So being able to get to it quickly becomes a good management of time technique. And wherever I see a little I here, I can click on it and it'll go into the info center for me and bring out the relevant thing. So here, the value of purchase components. Wherever I see a more, it'll expand it out. It's going into the info center now, and it's going to bring back for you and I the relevant information from the info center. And it can have just definitions, or as you see down here in stock costs, it can tell you how it calculated or what the costs are for various activities out here. Okay, so right down here, the rate for distribution, 65 pounds if less than pallets. So worthwhile taking advantage of the info center. But that's what the finance screen is an income statement. It's a place you'll come to often to see where things are at. Let me jump back up for a sec on top here. Information. When we look at information, this is going to have your bill of materials. So here's the raw materials that make up the different products, and I can download them. Here for the finished goods, shelf life, and how many are per box, boxes per layer, layers per pallet, etc. Here's the raw materials, and again, downloadable. And at the bottom, how big a container is. So that's what's in the info center. Rankings after each round allows me to see how I'm doing compared to my competitors. But let me come back to our screen. So that's what the finance screen is. Let me close this out. Current round, previous round, the difference. So I can look to see where I need to focus. Let's now go into the four roles, excuse me. Layout across all four roles is the same in terms of left side's historical, right side current decisions. So on the left side, here's my dashboard, my return on investment. Here's the little trend picture going down over time. Wherever there's a hyperlink, it will bring up a new screen and say, well, here's an expanded picture of what it looks like. And that's what you see right here. Okay. And then my score and best score. Reports. If you notice up here, we had penalties. Service level to the customer is 95%. Let's look at the customer and see how we did. We promised them 95%. If we come to the report here for food and groceries, we only achieved 89.9%, hence the penalties. So the reports you see on the left side is I can look at by customer, by product. I can look at customer broken down by product, or product by customer. So these are reports that you can work with to get the detail to make decisions. Want to show you two other reports real quick here, finance and analysis. This is the same across all four roles. The finance screen is similar to the finance screen you saw before. Two important differences though. Number one, if you notice, there are no pluses or minuses. You cannot expand out in the detail here. The second thing though is as you play rounds, you'll see this expand out to the right. So as you play round one, you'll see round one and round zero. As you play round two, you'll see 2, 1, and 0. So it allows you to see historically over time how well you're doing on your finance screen. The analysis screen is a query screen that allows you to go in and capture data that may not be in a current report. So I can say I want to look at things by product. And I want to look at it from whatever range of rounds you want to, by whatever measure, and whether to bring it to screen or to Excel. But if you notice down here, here's more detail. I can look at obsoletes and obsoletes per week, items that may not be on the report. But the one I want you to think about the most, especially if you find yourself quantitatively oriented, or your group's going to work on it, export all data to Excel. What this allows you to do is say, okay, I want all data from all reports across all four roles from round whatever to whatever, execute a query, and it will create for you an Excel spreadsheet. And every single report here and across all the other roles will become a tab and exported to Excel, so you have all data. So that's the types of reports you have. On the right side, the decisions you're making if you're in sales. What's our agreements? Order management. In other words, how we're going to handle back orders. What category management. What products can customers buy? And possibly forecasting if that's in your round. Can I change the forecast? And what KPIs or measurements we can use. The decision log tab, which sits below the agreements, allows you to go back and see what your decisions were in previous rounds. But let's look at agreements first. This is our current agreements with food and groceries, and if I want to change those, I hit the negotiate button. What you'll see pop up is a smaller screen which can kind of act as a what if. These are the measurements, these are the decisions, excuse me, that you can change as part of a team. And if you remember, we said we promised the customer 95%, and we got a big penalty. We only achieved 89.9. Let's say as a group you decide, you know what, we're going to change this to 90% because we think we want to get our arms around the penalties, get rid of them right away, so let's bring down our service level. Well, watch what happens to the contract index. The contract index is a multiplier. The prices in your reports, the contract index as a multiplier. If you watch, when we go from 95 to 90, watch what happens when I hit calculate. The multiplier or the index goes from 1.0085. You'll see it change here to 0.8685. So almost 14, 0.14. So if you lower the expectations of the customer, the index or the multiplier is going to go down. The value of what you sell to the customer is going to go down. So the index acts as a multiplier. So as we wrestle with these trade-offs of, gosh, I want to get rid of penalties, I'll lower the service level, the index is going to go down and say, well, then the customer is going to pay less. If you then say, well, that's too, I don't want that, I'm going to go back up to 95%, I can do that and recalculate. And you'll see the multiplier go back up or the contract index go up. So every decision you make has consequences and trade-offs with them, both positive and negative. So service level, shelf life to the customer. If I want to increase shelf life to the customer and say, I'm going to promise the customer 80% shelf life. Well, if you think about it, we would expect the contract index to go up, which if you watch it, it goes from 1.0085 to 1.04, which means the customer is willing to pay more because you're giving them product with better shelf life. So let me set that back to 75 for the moment and hit the calculate. You can hit the calculate as many times as you want. You have to calculate before you hit the deal. You can cancel anytime. You can change as often as you want, as long as we're not hitting the calculate in the button as the facilitator. But here's some of your choices. We deliver the next day to the customer. This tells us how late the customer can wait to place the order. So 20 p.m. is 8 p.m. A customer gets to wait till 8 p.m. to decide what they need for the next day. How I'm going to ship the customer, boxes, pallet layers, or pallets. Accounts receivable terms. Promotional pressure, do you want to have it or not? And how far out? And again, use your eyes to see what those are. So let me hit the cancel here for a second. So that's what's happening on the right side is, as a team, you're going to go in and decide what kind of decisions and negotiations we want to have with the customer and make those settings. And we can do it for food and groceries, land market, and Dominick's. Order management decisions. You have the potential to go in and decide, well, when we have shortages, the system doesn't just drop it, it keeps track of it. Here's my choices. Do I want to fill back orders based on customer priority, proportional, treating everybody equal, or first come, first serve? Okay? And again, have to save it if you make changes. Category management and forecasting. You're going to be playing different rounds and different combinations of rounds and different decisions through the simulation. These may be turned off and these will be in light gray. If you notice here, it's not in light gray, so that's one of my decisions. If I was not allowed to make the decision, this would be grayed out. But you can decide, here's food and groceries, land market, and Dominick's. Here's the products each is carrying. And again, you see the little eye here that you can go in and say, well, tell me about food and groceries. And if you look in the upper left, good information, market share, how many distribution centers, how many stores, what their orientation is. So this is important information. But category management tells us who's carrying what product. Forecasting, again, if that's part of your round, you'll have the ability to increase or decrease the forecast. So if I increase the forecast, every click is 5%. I'll see the forecast go from 66.6 to 69,930. So let me set that back. KPIs, if that's the round you're playing, then you'll have the ability to select other KPIs if that's important. And if you'll notice, it's kind of grayed out here, this demonstration navigation round. It's not one of my choices, so I can't do anything with it. And the decision log allows you to come back and say, what did I do in previous rounds? So if you notice, we're on round 1, and here's our current decisions. Previous rounds, this is where you've seen some -1s and -2s. Those are previous rounds we do in the setup to get the simulation ready. But as you play round 2, round 3, round 4, you'll be able to see what your decisions were in previous round. But the screen is set up with right side, your decisions to be made, left side, historical. So this is sales. If I go into supply chain management, I will, same setup, same layout, I'll just show you some of the decisions you have available to you. So pink color, dashboard like before, reports available to you, components and products, and here's that finance and analysis. that I said was across every screen available. But here's your decisions in supply chain. Components. You'll be making decisions on safety stock and lot size of components. I'm going to jump over here to the product on the finished goods side. Some of the decisions you'll be making there are safety stocks again for your finished products, and your production interval. Your production interval, the 10 is saying I am making up to 10 days worth every 10 days. That's what production interval means, up to 10 days worth every 10 days. You can go in if you want, and that might be part of your work, is to say they don't all have to be 10. You may say 8 and 4 and 2, and I'll leave that at 10 and that at 10 and that at 5. So they don't always have to be the same thing. Okay? So let me go back and reset these here. And as long as you hit the save, it'll keep it. If you don't hit save, it won't keep it. And you can go in and resave and resave and resave. Production. The production choice here is frozen periods. So frozen period of 3 weeks. Where other screens might be fractional, this one is whole numbers only. 3 weeks is saying schedule's not allowed to change for the next 3 weeks. So if the customer wants to make a change, that could be a problem. If I'm competing on low cost, I don't want my schedule to change. But that's the choice you're making here. And again, like the other screen in sales and everywhere else, if it were available, I could change what KPIs are available. So I could add or subtract if it's available. And then the decision log, same as what I've seen over in sales. I'm able to see what I did in previous rounds. So here I can select the round and see what my settings are. So let's go over to operations. Same setup on the screen. Color is going to be yellow because that's what their color is. Dashboard and reports. Here's that finance and analysis screen. And then here's my decisions across here. Inbound warehouse, outbound warehouse, mixing line, bottling line, and KPIs and decision log just like before. Inbound, do I or do I not want to have incoming inspection? And I can click on the I and see what it means. Number of pallet locations on the inbound side. 900 spots, 5 full-time employees. Intake is dock to stock, so when something comes in, it's going to sit on the dock for 5 days here, unless you change it, before it goes to stock. Outbound warehouse. The decisions you'll be making here are number of pallet locations, number of employees, an additional 4 employees. So let me come over to the warehousing report so you can see that real quick, how those tie together. 900 and 1,500 spots. The report's saying, well, you got 900 spots, you're using 833, 92.5%, and because of variability in demand, we're having to use overflow 10% of the time. Here's how many order lines per week that are coming in, how many pallets per week, and then how many days in the outsourcing. So you may decide to increase or decrease usage of spaces or get rid of some spaces depending on your decisions. And by going into the eyes, you can see what the cost is for each of those empty spaces. Down here, we said 5 employees in raw materials. 5 employees are working a total of 75 hours a week. 4 employees are working a total of 100 hours. So that's the inbound and the outbound. The bottling line. If we look at the bottling line, some of the decisions we'll be making here are, do I or do I not want preventative maintenance, a little or a lot? And again, you can hit the I to see what the cost is, because that's a project. Do I want breakdown training or not? Do I want to inflate bottles? How many shifts do I want to have? Currently, you start out with 2 shifts, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 80 hours. But you could have more or less. Do I want setup reduction? Yes or no, click or not. Do I want to increase speed? And if I wanted to, I could, if I'm playing it in that round, you can add a bottling line and decide who's going to carry what on the bottling line. So lots of decisions, a lot of complexity to managing a supply chain. The mixing line. Decisions there. Do I want to have a new mixer? Do I want to discard? Who's going to carry what? Again, if that's one of the decisions that's available in the round. Being this is a navigation round, we're showing you all the different facets of it, but as you play in your competition, that may not be some of the choices you have available in that round. Mixing and bottling. Let me show you the report there. What you're going to see here is mixing line on the bottom, how much time spent cleaning and lot size, and then up above on the bottling line, runtime, changeover, breakdown, unused capacity, and overtime in hours, in percentages, and visually. So we're 2 shifts, 80 hours a week. You may say, ooh, only 4.6 hours of unused. Maybe I want to add a 3rd shift. Someone else may say, well, maybe we should do breakdown training and get back some of those hours so I don't have to add another 3rd shift. A key component, key measurement, key number is production plan adherence. Think about this in your conversations along with shelf life. This is saying I'm only able to hit the production plan 78%. You can't set the plan beyond the production interval, but thinking of the ramifications of what causes you to miss the production plan and what the implications are of missing the production plan will be key to your success or failure. So that's the mixing and bottling report. Last one, purchasing. And then we'll close out with a couple comments here. In the purchasing, the layout's going to be the same in terms of, on the left side, dashboard reports. Here's our finance and analysis again. Very similar to sales, agreements, supplier market. You still have the KPIs and decision logs. You can go in, here's your current settings with your packaging person. The quality we're expecting is high, lead time 15 days. We do not have certification. We are not doing supplier development. We're not doing vendor managed inventory. Like sales, I can hit yes and go in and a box will pop up. Like sales, these are the things I can negotiate and change, calculate, hit deal, watch the multiplier change. So you can renegotiate with your suppliers. You can also go in and change the supplier in this simulation here. So as soon as the box disappears here, we'll show you a couple thoughts here. Number one, you can terminate the supplier right from here. An alternative, if you want to change it, so let's say we look at, let's pick vitamin C, because currently 60 days from China. And if you remember, we're in Northwest Europe. In the Netherlands, we ship to the customer every day. And you may say, gosh, I don't want my suppliers to be as far away. I want to change suppliers. You can terminate the supplier right here and then go into the supplier market and make the new selection. So let's go into the supplier market. I will not terminate here because I want to show you something. It's a comment I want you to think about, remember, because it always seems to zap somebody. You pick your component, in this case vitamin C, and hit search. And it will bring back your current supplier as well as all the suppliers that are available to you. So if I scroll down, here's your current supplier, 60 days from China, and you can negotiate through here also. But here's your other choices. Here's a supplier that's 20 days away from France. Here's another supplier, 40 days from India. And you may look at something like this and say, well, why would I negotiate poor quality? But think of the plastic PET bottles you and I use for pop and water. Those are pretty crinkly, pretty poor bottles, and those are perfectly acceptable to us. So, France, India, current supplier China, 4 days away Netherlands. Okay? So I may say, you know what? I want to negotiate and I want to select SYI. I'll hit negotiate here. And the screen pops up and I make my changes and I calculate. And even if I don't make changes, I still want to hit calculate because I'm happy with the settings. And then once it goes through the calculation here, I'll hit the deal. When I hit the deal here, and here's what's important, the deal here will terminate your old supplier and it will bring in your new supplier. So it takes a two-step process and does it in one step. And if I go back to my agreements and look at my vitamin C, there's my new supplier. If you go in and terminate and forget to go to the supplier market and select a new one, in the next round you'll have no supplier and you're going to tank out in business. So it's much easier to terminate and reselect through the supplier market. So fundamentally, that's the simulation. A couple things I want to capture. If you notice this little green button up here, production interval tool, may or may not be available to you depending on the rounds you're playing. That's one of the features that you'll catch in the competition. You'll always have the logout. In this simulation here, since it's a demonstration round, navigation round, you can calculate and see the results. Every round is 6 months simulated. This is not a what if, I'm going to change one button and see what happens. You're making decisions as a vice president, as a team, for the whole next 6 months. And so you have to talk and make these aggregate decisions, and that's the uncertainty we have in life and business out there. When you get into the competition, you will not have that calculate button. You will not have control. Your facilitator will have that on his or her screen to be able to calculate, so you will not see the calculate button. So to review, My Company will give you your first screen. We'll pop back. Information, bill of material, packaging material. Info Center is all your definitions and information. My comment was, use your little eye to get to the right thing, right section quickly. Rankings, how did I do after each round compared to everybody else? Profile for if I have to change logins or roles. Finance is your income statement, and each of the supply chain, sales, operations, and purchasing. Those are the 4 roles where we make our decisions. And I'll go into just one here as a last comment, and we'll finish off. Every screen's laid out the same. Left side's historical dashboard, reports on the bottom left. Every screen will have finance and analysis. Finance, similar to the finance screen, except where this one here allows you to expand into detail. This finance screen looks at your income statement over time. Your analysis is a query screen. Consider using it for bringing all the data down from Excel. And on the right side is your decisions, if they are available or not, depending on the rounds you're playing. And then the decision log of what decisions you made in the past. And the only other comment I would make would be, make sure you, whenever you change something, you hit the save button and look for the blue bar that your data has been saved properly. So that should end our navigation. I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck in the competition. Have fun. It's a very, very cool event.